The Dallas Mavericks are 7-9 since trading for Kyrie Irving, and overall on the season, they are now just one game above 500. And even more concerning than that is the fact that when Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic have played together in those 9 games, they have a record of 3-6. I don't think this team works right now, and I think as a result, their time in the 2023 playoffs will be very short-lived. But more concerning than that, I really don't know that the future of this team, what they can do to change the problems that they have. I don't feel great about it. So let's talk about why I'm kind of scared for the Dallas Mavericks. Before I continue on with this video, if you end up enjoying it, then please be sure to subscribe, as we are uploading every other day on this channel and daily once the NBA playoffs come around in about a month. I guess it's like 3 weeks from now, whatever. Also drop a like if you end up enjoying it. Only makes sense that if you like the video, that you'd like the video. So yeah, appreciate it, but let's get into it. Defense, defense, defense. Every little concern I have for the Dallas Mavericks comes down to defense. By no means, to no degree, do I even have the slightest bit of concern for what this team can do offensively, given the talent that they have. When Kyrie and Luka have played together, they have scored on average 123 points per game. That would make them the #1 offense in the league, eclipsing even the Sacramento Kings, who were already pretty easily #1, meaning that they would be scoring 5 more points per game than the 3rd best offense in the league. That's a really notable gap. But in contrast, they have allowed 121.5 points per game, which is just short of dead last. Lucky for them, the 18-52 San Antonio Spurs are just a little bit worse defensively. But this team, the side between the offense and the defense, could not be more extreme. And even though, yeah, between those 9 games, they are technically outscoring their opponent, obviously, they went 3-6, so it didn't overall work out. There's other ways for that to go. More importantly, you aren't going to win a championship as the 29th best defense in the entire league. You're just not. There's just no way to put it. It just doesn't happen. It never will happen. Impossible. It just would not happen. So we're already talking about a non-starter when it comes to the Mavericks and their 2023 playoff run. Now, of course, that is a 9-game sample size. Maybe there are ways they could turn things around defensively to not be as piss poor as they have been, but you are not taking the core of the Mavericks and what they have on the defensive end of things and making it notably better than it is right now, to the point that it makes up for how significant the defensive issue has been. Hey, real quick before this goes any further, I'm just going to say here, I completely forgot to mention Josh Green in this video. So, whoops. I recorded this video, then watched the Mavericks game last night and realized that that was a pretty stupid thing, because he's been amazing for them lately and is definitely a key component of their future. I don't think including him really makes my arguments and points in this video any less valid, but I couldn't leave him unmentioned, of course. My bad. Also, shout out Jaden Hardy, because he was pretty phenomenal in that game as well. Okay, back to the video. So, you look past this season. I think it's almost a given. Even most Mavericks fans would say, yeah, this is not going to be our year. When we traded for Kyrie, it just kind of gutted the roster to a degree that's not really sustainable in a playoff environment, even if Kyrie does overall make the team a little bit better because of just how ridiculous their offense can be. The defense was already slipping, and trading Dorian Finney-Smith in this move did not help things. Getting Kyrie Irving in there, who's historically not a great defender, did not help things. Now, that said, I think it's a little lazy and a little too easy to just sit here and blame Kyrie and Luka for their defensive issue. Because, sure, they're not the best defensive backcourt that's ever been, but we have seen in the right context, with the right defenders around them, with the right system around them, both of these guys being fully capable of being all-right defenders. Luka Doncic was that last year when he was on this team when they were 6th in defensive rating, and Kyrie Irving has done that before. He was doing that this year with the Nets himself. So I think it's a little too simple, a little too easy to blame these guys. They're not going to be the face of your defense. If these are your strongest defenders, that's a problem, obviously. But I don't think they're at a level where they're such a weak link that it's guaranteed to fail because of how bad the defense is. I feel like people overestimate that kind of thing. Kyrie and Luka are so valuable offensively that if your defense can just be middle of the pack, that would be a contender level team, and it's possible to be middle of the pack with these two. All that said, actually getting this team to that point defensively would be difficult. Now, Jason Kidd has shown in the past, as he showed with last year's Mavericks team, that he is capable of raising the ceiling of this team defensively with his coaching prowess. While I don't think he's a very good offensive coach, and he's pretty much just let Luka ball, which works out, but ultimately is not very creative. All that aside, he's a really good defensive coach. So that does help in elevating whatever potential talent they would have on the defensive end of the floor. But you're not really going to do it through trades. I do think you need to trade Christian Wood. That's like a given to me, because as good as he is offensively, Luka and Kyrie is good enough offensively that you really just need your guys to hit their threes, and that's pretty much it. So I would trade Christian Wood ideally for a wing defender, like a guy who's like a pretty good wing defender, like a real rotation piece. If you can make that happen, that would be the way to go. And then I do think there's one player that they can pursue this offseason that they super have to go for. Luckily, with Kyrie's contract expiring, with Reggie Bullock's contract non-guaranteed, there are also some other contracts that I think you could potentially move around without giving up too much. To clear that space, I do think there is a world where you clear a decent enough cap space where you could sign someone like Jakob Poeltl. That's someone that I think the Mavericks need to hardcore try and get on their roster, because that would really make a world of difference, and that would be a huge get. So, for a perfect hypothetical offseason for the Mavericks, let's just say that they sign Jakob Poeltl. Then we get a list of a few other pretty good wing defenders who can fill their roles offensively. Jay Crowder, Otto Porter Jr., Torrey Craig, and Javon Carter. That roster as a whole, there's a big defensive improvement there. There's obviously going to be an offensive dip, especially if you trade Christian Wood and or Tim Hardaway Jr., because I'd probably move him as well. But let's say you trade Christian for like a solid enough starter, like 3-and-D wing guy, whoever that may be, and you get Jakob Poeltl in there, and then you've got like essentially 4 good starters. I mean, you have 2 great starters, 1 really good starter, then that wing who's fine, and then just a bunch of role players who are minimum tier guys. I think a couple of these guys are a little bit more than that, but generally speaking, on the cheaper end of the spectrum. It's still not great, and there's really no avenue to get some real heavy hitters defensively, which other than Jakob, of course. But to get I feel like you have to get like 2 heavy hitters at least defensively to bridge the gap that you've created here. Again, maybe Jason Kidd is a good enough defensive coach that that doesn't actually end up mattering, but I don't know that he's quite that good. So in what is essentially a home run offseason where they get 2+ defenders, including a really good player in Jakob Poeltl, and a couple of rotational wings and a defensive guard, that's like a home run. And ultimately, I don't think enough. I still feel like you're kind of scraping at the bottom of the barrel there. Like, yes, you've rounded out your defense quite a bit, and hell, maybe you've made it to the point where it is that middle of the pack thing, but this is just not a team that I am in love with. They just don't have the assets to do better than this, though. And it doesn't make them convincingly contenders to me. There are a lot of teams that I would take over this one if they just copy and paste going into next year. So with that being what you're facing this offseason, how much incentive does Kyrie Irving have? Because I don't think he has any at all. Now, I understand that Lakers report came out that they really wouldn't be interested in Kyrie because D'Lo has been really great for them. But I don't expect D'Lo's great performance to hold up. If you look at his last 3 games, he's averaging 15 points on 16 shots, shooting 30, 23, 83 on 9 3-point attempts per game, which is not exactly the best in the world. Although D'Lo would probably be cheaper and, of course, less dramatic, I could definitely see the Lakers trying to go for the bigger bang for their buck there, especially given that this last year is probably the last real year they have to do it with LeBron. I don't think that Kyrie is not going to get any interest from the Lakers, or really a couple of other teams that theoretically would make more sense for him and he would be more attracted to than the Dallas Mavericks. So how confident are we that Kyrie is returning to begin with? And again, even if he does, how confident are we that that team is a strong contender? Maybe they sneak their way into that conversation, course, they managed to make the conference finals last year, but an actual team that really does have a strong prospect of winning a championship, I don't feel that great about it, man. And I don't know that Kyrie would feel that great about it. And subsequently, I don't know that he has much incentive. So I'm worried about them. I've wanted the Mavericks to succeed with Luka Doncic because I want Luka to succeed. And I like when a player just goes to a team and stays on that team when it can happen. It's one of the reasons Giannis is one of my favorite players. One of the reasons Jason Tatum is one of my favorite players. One of the reasons that guy is one of my favorite players. So that's the most enjoyable outcome to me. But I don't know, man. Once again, I just look at Dallas a little bit funny, and I wish I didn't have to, but here we are. But yeah, I'm a little concerned about them. Maybe I'm crazy. I guess we'll see. But yeah, shout out to Rudy for editing the video, and goodbye.